Have you ever believed you had everything you needed, only to realize what truly matters was something you had never noticed? Some truths arrive softly, carried by the smallest voices. The city center was alive that morning. The distant sound of car horns, the chatter of street vendors, the smell of roasted coffee drifting between skyscrapers. Crowds moved like rivers, flowing around the tall figure stepping out of a sleek black car. Before we continue, if you love stories that warm your heart and awaken emotions that help you to become a better person, be sure to subscribe to this channel and show your love by liking the video. Oh, and don't forget to comment below where you're watching us from. We love to know that. Daniel Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Industries, adjusted his suit jacket. His presence alone commanded attention. Powerful, polished, always in control. To everyone, he was the man who had it all: wealth, respect, influence. To himself, he wasn't so sure anymore. He had come for a charity event, one he sponsored every year without much thought. For him, it was a signature, a speech, a photo. For everyone else, it was hope. But that day, as he walked toward the large donation tent, something unusual caught his eye. A little girl stood near the entrance, no older than 8 or 9. Her dress was worn, faded by sun and time, her shoes too big and tied with mismatched laces. In her arms, she held a small stuffed rabbit, its seams loose, its fur thinning. Yet her eyes, they shined with a courage far beyond her years. She stared at Daniel not with fear or awe, but with a quiet strength that unsettled him. One volunteer whispered, "That's Mia. She's been waiting since sunrise. She heard a man who can buy anything was coming. She wants to ask him something." Daniel forced a polite smile. "Kids always want toys," he murmured, already imagining how quickly he could resolve this and move on. But when Mia approached him, something in her gaze made the world slow down. "Sir?" she asked softly. Daniel crouched down, straightening his tie out of habit. "Yes. What would you like? You can choose anything." Her fingers tightened around her stuffed rabbit. She swallowed, and then, with a trembling voice, she said words Daniel had never expected, words that pierced the armor of wealth and pride he had worn for decades. "Can you buy me time?" she whispered. "For my mom. She's sick. The doctors said she doesn't have much left. I don't want toys. I just want more time with her." Daniel froze. The noise of the city faded. The wind stilled. Something deep in his chest cracked open. He had offered her the world. She had asked for the one thing he could not buy. In that single moment, Daniel Hawthorne, the man who believed he had everything, felt the sting of true helplessness, and for the first time in years, he didn't know how to speak. For a long moment, Daniel couldn't breathe. The sounds of the event, clapping, chatter, shuffling feet, faded into a distant hum. All he could hear were Mia's trembling words circling in his mind. "I just want more time with my mom." Daniel swallowed hard. He had heard thousands of requests in his life, deals, bargains, negotiations, pleas, but none had ever reached inside him like this. None had stripped away his certainty so completely. "Mia," he whispered, his voice cracking in a way he didn't recognize, "tell me, what's happening with your mother?" The little girl hugged her worn rabbit closer, its ear hanging by a loose thread. "She works a lot, sir. Cleaning houses. She always says she's tired, but she keeps smiling for me." Her voice trembled, but she pushed through. "Last month she fainted. They said something is wrong inside. Something they can't fix unless we have money. A lot of money." Daniel felt the weight of her words like cold metal. "She still goes to work," Mia continued softly. "She says she wants to keep our home. She says I shouldn't worry." Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. She was trying so hard to be strong, too strong for her age. But yesterday, She told me she's running out of time. That God might want her soon. Her voice broke, and Daniel's heart broke with it. He had spent his life calculating numbers, analyzing risks, and predicting outcomes, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of this tiny girl pleading not for toys, not for food, not for shelter, but for time. Time, the one currency he had never learned to control. Daniel reached out instinctively, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Mia, I'm so sorry," he whispered. She looked up at him with eyes too full of sadness for someone so young. "They said you're a man who can buy anything," she said. "I thought maybe you could help me buy time, even just a little." Daniel's throat tightened painfully. It was the first time in years he felt powerless, not because he lacked resources, but because he had never been asked to save something so fragile, so precious. "I can't buy time," he said softly, struggling to keep his voice steady. "But maybe I can help in another way." Mia blinked, hope flickering in her tired eyes. Daniel turned to his assistant, who stood frozen, shocked by the entire scene. "Find her mother's doctors," Daniel said, his voice suddenly sharp with determination. "All of them. I want names, numbers, hospitals. Today." He looked back at Mia, at her courage, her fear, her quiet strength, and something inside him shifted, softened, awakened. "Listen to me, Mia," he said, kneeling so his eyes met hers. "You're not alone anymore. I'll do everything I can to help your mother. Everything." And for the first time in his life, Daniel Hawthorne wasn't speaking as a CEO, but as a human being, as a man who had been shattered and reshaped by the simplest, purest request he had ever heard. Daniel rode in the back of the car in uncharacteristic silence. The city blurred past the windows, bright billboards, rushing crowds, flashing streetlights, but nothing reached him. All he could see were Mia's eyes, and the quiet desperation behind them. His assistant sat beside him, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, we need Dr. Hensley immediately. Tell him it's urgent." A pause. "Yes, Hawthorne, Daniel Hawthorne." The car sped through traffic, the sound of sirens echoing somewhere in the distance. The weight in Daniel's chest grew heavier by the second. "Sir," the driver said gently, "we're here." The hospital stood tall, cold, sterile, the kind of place Daniel usually passed without a second thought. But tonight, it felt different. It felt like stepping into a storm he wasn't prepared to face. They entered through the sliding glass doors. The smell of antiseptic hit sharply. Too clean, too sharp, too real. Nurses hurried past, voices low and urgent. Machines beeped in rhythmic warnings. A doctor approached, recognizing Daniel instantly. "Mr. Hawthorne, we received your message." "Yes," Daniel said. "I need to see Mia's mother, now." The doctor nodded, leading him down a long hallway, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. Each step echoed with dread. They stopped at a room. Inside, a woman lay weakly on the bed, thin, pale, fragile. Tubes traced her arms. Her breaths came slow, strained, as though each one cost more effort than the last. "Mia's mother," the doctor said quietly. "Her name is Elena Ortiz." Daniel stepped closer, his chest tightening. She looked so small, so worn, so alone. He turned to the doctor. "Tell me the truth. All of it." The doctor hesitated, then sighed. "She's been sick for months. A condition that's treatable, but she never had the money for exams or medication. It progressed, and now—" Daniel's voice cut through like ice. "Can she be saved?" The doctor paused. Those few seconds felt like hours. "There's a chance," he said finally. "A small one, but we'd need to start treatment immediately. Intensive, expensive, and prolonged care. "Then do it," Daniel said without a single ounce of hesitation. "Whatever it costs." "But Mr. Hawthorne," "I said do it." The doctor nodded, calling nurses urgently. Daniel approached Elena's bedside. Her eyes fluttered open, weak, struggling, but a faint recognition flickered in them. "You're him," she whispered. Daniel swallowed. "Your daughter came to me today." A tear slipped down her cheek. "She worries. Too much. She's just a child." "She's brave," Daniel said softly, "and she loves you more than anything." Eleanor's hand trembled as she reached for his. "Please, don't let her be alone." Daniel felt something inside him break, a crack deep, painful, undeniable. He gently clasped her hand. "I won't," he whispered. "You have my word." As the machines beeped and nurses prepared her for emergency treatment, Daniel stepped back, shaken, humbled, transformed. He had walked into this hospital as CEO. He was leaving it a different man, a man who finally understood that life's greatest responsibilities were not measured in profits, but in promises. The night air was cool as Daniel stepped out of the hospital. The city lights shimmered against the dark sky, but for once he didn't feel the usual distance between himself and the world. Tonight, everything felt painfully real. His driver opened the door. "Back to headquarters, sir." "No," Daniel said quietly. "Take me to the shelter event. Mia will be waiting." The ride was silent, the kind of silence that forces a man to hear his own heart. The memory of Elena's trembling voice echoed within him. "Please, don't let her be alone." He tightened his fist over his chest. He would not fail them. Not mother, not daughter. When the car stopped at the event, most families had already gone home. Volunteers packed tables, banners fluttered in the wind, only a handful of people lingered near the exit. And there she was, Mia, sitting on the curb, hugging her rabbit, staring down the driveway as if holding the whole world in her tiny lungs. When she saw Daniel step out of the car, she stood quickly, wiping her face with the back of her hand, trying to look brave. "Sir, did you find her?" Her small voice cracked on the last word. Daniel knelt in front of her, not as a CEO, not as a powerful man, but as someone humbled by the weight of her hope. "Yes," he said softly. "I saw your mother." Mia's breath caught. Is she... "She's fighting," Daniel said, "and she's not alone anymore. I promised her I'd take care of you both. And I will." The words broke something inside her. She dropped the rabbit and threw her arms around him. A tiny, desperate hug, one that spoke fear, relief, exhaustion, and a love too big for her small frame. Daniel felt her shaking against his chest. He closed his eyes, holding her gently, carefully, as if she were something fragile he had been entrusted with. "Will she live?" she asked into his shoulder. Daniel swallowed. "The doctors are starting treatment tonight. I'll make sure she gets the best care possible. I'll be there, and you can see her tomorrow." Mia pulled back, tears streaking her cheeks. "Why? Why are you helping us?" Daniel looked into her eyes, the eyes that had shattered him, and spoke the truth he hadn't realized until now. "Because you reminded me that some things in life can't be ignored, or postponed, or bought for myself, and because no child should ever beg for something as simple as time." Mia took a deep breath, nodding slowly, as if absorbing every word into her heart. Daniel offered his hand. "Come, I'll take you home, and tomorrow I'll take you to your mother." Her small fingers curled around his, a single gesture that carried trust, and a promise he would not break. They walked toward the car together, a billionaire and a little girl, bound not by wealth, but by courage, love, and a shared hope. And as the city lights flickered overhead, Daniel realized something profound. He hadn't just made a promise to Mia, he had found a purpose. The next morning arrived softly, with pale sunlight brushing the horizon and warming the cold hospital walls. Daniel held Mia's hand as they walked down the long corridor, her small footsteps echoing beside his. Nurses moved quietly around them, the scent of antiseptic and fresh linens floating through the air. Mia's grip tightened. "Is she awake?" Daniel knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "She's tired, but she's fighting, and she's waiting for you." They turned the corner, and Daniel gently pushed open the hospital room door. Inside, Elena lay propped against her pillows, pale but alive in a way she hadn't been the day before. Tubes and monitors surrounded her, but there was a softness in her eyes, a spark returning. "Mom!" Mia's voice broke as she ran to her bedside. Elena opened her arms weakly, tears pooling instantly. "Mi pequeña, my sweet girl." Daniel stepped back, giving them space, but his heart clenched at the sight. A mother clinging to her daughter as if anchoring herself to life itself. A daughter holding on with all the strength her little body could manage. After a long embrace, Elena looked up at Daniel. "You did this," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "No, Mia did. She asked for something impossible, and she made me try anyway." A small smile touched Elena's lips, fragile but real. "She has always been brave, braver than me." Mia wiped her mother's tears with the sleeve of her dress. "They're giving you medicine, Mama. Good medicine. Mr. Hawthorne said so." Daniel stepped closer. "We've brought in specialists, the best we could find on such short notice. They're confident they can help stabilize you, but it will take time, treatment, and strength." Elena looked down, ashamed. "I should have asked for help sooner. I didn't want her to worry." Mia hugged her again. "I worry more when you hide things." Daniel felt something shift inside him, a quiet ache mixed with a sense of responsibility he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't about charity. It wasn't about contracts or signatures. It was about saving a family, one he was unexpectedly becoming a part of. A specialist entered the room and nodded respectfully. "Mr. Hawthorne, everything is ready. We're beginning the full treatment plan today." Elena's eyes widened. "Today?" Daniel stepped forward, voice gentle but firm. "We don't wait when it comes to the people we care about." Mia blinked, looking between them. "You care about us?" Daniel hesitated, then knelt next to her. He took her tiny hands in his. "Mia, after yesterday, I don't think I could ever walk away. Your courage changed something in me. You asked for time, and I intend to give your mother every second she deserves." Mia threw her arms around him, crying softly into his shoulder. Elena watched, tears sliding down her cheeks, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. As Daniel stood, something became clear. He wasn't fighting for them out of guilt, or pity, or obligation. He was fighting for them because they had become part of his life, part of his heart, in a way he never expected. And in that quiet hospital room, filled with beeping monitors and the warmth of newfound hope, Daniel Hawthorne realized saving a life was not an act of charity. It was an act of love. By the next morning, the story had already begun to drift beyond the hospital walls. It started with a nurse who had witnessed Daniel Hawthorne, the untouchable CEO, the man known for ruthless negotiations and unemotional decisions, kneeling beside a poor girl, holding her as she cried for her mother's life. Whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs turned into conversations, and soon them turned into headlines. CEO cancels meetings to save single mother's life. The billionaire who cried with a little girl. Hawthorne funds emergency treatment for woman who couldn't afford it. Daniel sat in the hospital cafe, untouched coffee growing cold in front of him, as his assistant scrolled through the avalanche of online posts. "Sir, this has gone viral," he said, voice shaky. "People are shocked. They didn't think you were capable of something like this." Daniel didn't look up. "That's because I wasn't. Not until now." His assistant blinked. He had never heard Daniel speak like that, stripped of armor, stripped of ego. Across the hall, Mia was coloring quietly in a waiting area chair, her small feet swinging back and forth. Every few minutes, she glanced toward her mother's room to make sure the door was still open, to make sure hope was still alive. "She's special," Daniel murmured almost to himself. "Mia, she made me see something I should have seen long ago." The assistant hesitated, then asked gently, "And what's that, sir?" Daniel finally met his eyes. "That people like her mother work themselves to the bone for a world that never even pauses long enough to notice their pain." A beat. "I've built an empire, but I never built a heart into it." The assistant nodded slowly, unsure of how to respond. Before he could speak, a familiar voice called out, "Mr. Hawthorne." Daniel turned. It was one of his shareholders, a stern man with a sharp suit and an even sharper tongue. Two others followed behind him. "Is it true?" the shareholder demanded. "You've halted meetings, postponed deals, all for this?" Mia looked up, frightened by the tension. Daniel stood, his expression calm but resolute. "Yes, every word of it is true." "Or this isn't your responsibility," the man said, lowering his voice but not his irritation. "A CEO cannot get personally involved with—" Daniel cut him off quietly. "A CEO is still a human being." The shareholder's lips tightened. Daniel continued, "And if helping a dying woman and her daughter is considered a weakness, then I'm proud of that weakness." Mia stared at him, amazed, grateful, glowing with trust. The shareholders exchanged looks, confused, unsettled, but none dared challenge him again. After they walked away, Mia approached Daniel slowly. "Did you get in trouble because of me?" Daniel kneeled and cupped her shoulders gently. "No, Mia. I stood up because of you." Her eyes softened, filled with a depth far beyond her years. "You're different than I thought," she whispered. Daniel smiled, a small, tender smile he didn't know he was still capable of. "I'm different because you made me different." At that moment, a nurse walked out of Elena's room. "She's awake," the nurse said softly. "She's asking for both of you." Mia gasped and grabbed Daniel's hand. Together they hurried toward the room, and as Daniel stepped inside, he understood the world could talk, criticize, praise, or misunderstand him, but none of it mattered. What mattered was here, a mother fighting for life, a daughter fighting for hope, and a man finally learning what it meant to fight for something real. Elena looked fragile beneath the soft hospital lights, skin pale, breath shallow, hair falling gently across her forehead. But when she saw Mia enter the room with Daniel beside her, something inside her lit up, a spark of strength, a spark of life. "Mia!" Her voice cracked, but her smile was warm, trembling, full of love. "Mama!" Mia rushed into her arms, careful not to disturb the tubes and wires. Elena held her tightly, as though she feared letting go would break the world. Daniel stepped closer but remained respectful, staying near the foot of the bed. Elena looked at him, truly looked, as if searching for the truth inside his eyes. "You came back," she whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. "I told you I wouldn't leave you alone." Emotion flickered across her tired face, a mixture of gratitude, disbelief, and something deeper, something she hadn't felt in years: trust. Mia pulled back slightly. "Mr. Hawthorne talked to the doctors, Mama. He said he's going to help you get better." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" she asked, looking at Daniel. Her voice was soft, but the question was heavy. "Why would someone like you help someone like us?" Daniel felt the weight of those words, the cruel truth they carried about the world, about inequality, about who gets seen and who doesn't. He took a breath. "Because your daughter asked me for something I couldn't ignore. She asked me for time, and it made me realize how precious life is, and how blind I've been to the pain around me." Eleanor's lips trembled. She gently stroked Mia's cheek. "Mia has always had a big heart, bigger than mine, stronger than mine." Mia looked down shyly. Eleanor turned her gaze back to Daniel, fragile, yet filled with courage. "Mr. Hawthorne," she whispered, "I have a request, a wish." Daniel stepped closer, instinctively lowering his voice. "Anything." She reached out a frail hand, and Daniel held it gently. "If something happens to me—" Mia's eyes shot up, instantly filling with tears. "Mama, don't say that." Elena soothed her softly. "Shh, my love. Listen." She looked at Daniel again, and in that moment her expression carried the weight of a mother's deepest fear and deepest hope. "If I don't make it, promise me you won't let Mia go back to the life we had. Promise me you'll protect her, teach her, guide her, love her as if she were your own." Daniel's breath caught. He had closed billion-dollar deals. He had negotiated mergers across continents. He had stared down ruthless competitors without blinking. But this request, this tiny, trembling plea, it broke him. He kneeled beside the bed, tears rising despite every attempt to control them. "Eleanor," he whispered, voice thick, "I swear to you, with everything I am, I will take care of Mia. She will never be alone again." Elena exhaled shakily, tears streaming down her cheeks, tears of fear, relief, love, surrender. Mia hugged her mother again, sobbing softly. "I don't want to lose you." Elena kissed the top of her head. "And I will fight with everything I have to stay with you, my angel." She looked at Daniel one last time. "Thank you for letting me hope again." Daniel felt something shift inside him, deeper than responsibility, deeper than compassion. In that moment, Elena Ortiz wasn't just a woman he was helping. She was a mother trusting him with her entire world. And Daniel realized the truth he could no longer deny. Saving her wasn't just Mia's wish anymore. It had become his own. The next morning arrived with urgency. Doctors moved swiftly through the halls. Nurses briefed one another in hushed but urgent tones. Machines were wheeled into Eleanor's room. Specialists flew in from other cities, and some from other countries, all summoned by Daniel Hawthorne's call. For the first time in her life, Elena Ortiz had an entire medical team fighting for her. Mia stood beside her mother's bed, holding her hand tightly as preparations began. Daniel stood on the other side, solid, steady, grounded, a quiet force holding the room together. "Is all this really for me?" Eleanor whispered, staring at the faces around her. Daniel nodded. "Yes. And it's only the beginning." The head specialist stepped closer. "We're starting an aggressive treatment plan today. It won't be easy, but with the right support, we have hope." Hope, a word Elena had long stopped allowing herself to believe in. Mia leaned close. "Mama, I told you. He's helping us." A small, fragile smile touched Elena's lips. "Yes, I see that now." As nurses inserted IVs and prepared equipment, Mia's face creased with worry. Her small hand kept shaking. Daniel noticed and gently placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "She's in the best hands she could possibly be," he whispered. "But what if—" Daniel knelt so he could meet her eyes. "We don't think about what if. We think about what we can do, and right now we're doing everything." Mia took a shaky breath and nodded. The treatment began. Hours passed. Machines hummed softly. Nurses checked monitors. Doctors entered and exited with quiet professionalism. Elena drifted in and out of sleep, her body fighting harder than it ever had. And through it all, Mia stayed by her mother's side, and Daniel stayed by Mia's. At one point, Elena opened her eyes and found them both sitting there, Mia's head resting against Daniel's arm as she dozed off from exhaustion, and Daniel gently brushing hair from the girl's forehead, his expression soft and protective. "You're good with her," Elena murmured. Daniel looked up, startled she was awake. "She deserves stability, safety, someone who sees her." Elena gazed at him, truly saw him, and for the first time recognized a man not defined by wealth, but by the tenderness he didn't realize he possessed. "You know," Elena whispered, "you remind me of the man Mia's father could have been, if life had been kinder." Daniel swallowed hard. Her words struck deeper than he expected. "I don't know what I'm becoming," he admitted quietly, "but I know she's changing me." Elena smiled softly. "Then let her. She changes people just by loving them." Hours later, Daniel stepped out to take a call. More specialists were arriving, more treatments approved, more resources mobilized. Money had never meant much to him before, but now it meant saving a life, and that gave it purpose. When he returned to the room, Mia ran to him, eyes wide. "The doctor said she's responding. Mama's responding." For the first time since he met Mia, Daniel felt something spark inside him. Joy. Real joy. He lifted her slightly off the ground in a small embrace. "That's amazing, Mia." But as he set her down, she looked up at him with a seriousness far beyond her years. "Mr. Hawthorne," she whispered, "please, don't leave us." Daniel froze. She wasn't asking for money, or gifts, or miracles. She was asking for him, his presence, his care, his heart. And he realized something undeniable. He wasn't fighting only to save Elena's life anymore. He was fighting for the family he never expected, never imagined, but somehow always needed. Night fell softly over the hospital, wrapping the building in a quiet, trembling stillness. Inside Elena's room, the rhythm of the heart monitor echoed like a fragile heartbeat in the dark. Mia sat curled in a chair, her small hands wrapped around her mother's. Daniel sat beside her, silent, steady, a presence she leaned on without realizing. But as midnight approached, Elena's condition shifted. The monitors beeped more rapidly. Her breaths grew shallower, trembling between each inhale. Doctors rushed in, their calm instructions stretching the room with tension. Mia stood up abruptly. "Mama? Mama, what's happening?" A nurse knelt down. "She's fighting very hard, sweetheart, but she needs you to stay calm. She needs your courage right now." Mia's lip trembled. Tears gathered, but she refused to let them fall. She lifted her chin, a gesture so brave, so familiar, that Daniel felt something tear inside him. Elena opened her eyes, barely. "Mia," she whispered. Mia rushed forward. "Mama, I'm here. I'm right here." Elena's hand trembled as she touched her daughter's cheek. "You must keep going, no matter what happens." "No!" Mia shook her head desperately. "No, Mama, don't talk like that." Daniel stepped forward, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "Mia, listen to her. She's trying to tell you something important." Eleanor's eyes met Daniel's, exhausted, pleading, and he understood instantly. She needed him to guide Mia through this moment. She needed him to be strong where she could not. "Mia," Eleanor whispered, struggling for air. I need you to choose hope, even if I can't stay. Mia's breaths quickened. Mama, please. Elena touched her lips gently. Shh, my angel, listen. Her voice cracked with love. Choose to live. Choose to grow. Choose to trust the people who love you. Choose to let your heart stay open. Mia sobbed softly, shaking. Daniel knelt beside her, one hand on her back, grounding her, holding her together. Mia, he whispered, whatever happens, I'm here. I won't let you face this alone. She looked up at him through watery eyes. You promise? Daniel cupped her face with both hands. Gentle, careful, father-like. I promise, on my life. Mia turned back to her mother, tears streaming freely now. Mama, I choose you, she whispered. Always, I choose hope, I choose love. I'll be brave, I'll be everything you taught me to be. Elena exhaled, a small, peaceful breath. Pride washed over her tired features. That's my girl. Her fingers loosened around Mia's hand. Her eyes fluttered closed. Mama, Mia whispered. The monitor beeped in slowing, uneven rhythm. Doctor stepped forward. Mama. Daniel wrapped his arms around Mia before the words could leave the doctor's mouth. He held her tightly, her body trembling, her heart breaking, shielding her from the unbearable moment her world shattered. The monitor flatlined. Mia's scream tore through the room. Raw, heartbreaking, pure love and pure loss tangled together. Daniel held her as she collapsed into him, sobbing against his chest. He closed his eyes, tears slipping down his cheeks, a silent grief, a helpless ache, a broken man holding a broken child. And in that moment, Daniel Hawthorne understood. This wasn't charity, this wasn't obligation, this wasn't kindness, this was family. The funeral took place on a quiet morning, wrapped in soft sunlight and the gentle rustle of trees. A small group gathered, neighbors, nurses, volunteers from the shelter, and at the front stood Daniel and Mia, hand in hand. Mia held her stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest, its seams worn, its fur softened by time. Her eyes were swollen, but they held something deeper than grief, a courage her mother had placed inside her. After the service, as the last handful of soil fell over the fresh grave, Mia turned to Daniel. What happens to me now? She whispered. Daniel knelt, meeting her at eye level. Her small face trembled, fragile, uncertain, lost. What do you want to happen? He asked gently. Her answer came without hesitation. Can I stay with you? Daniel's breath caught. There it was, the moment that split his life in two, before Mia and after Mia. He placed his hands on her shoulders, steady and warm. Mia, when your mother asked me to protect you, I didn't answer as a CEO. I answered as someone who cared, someone who saw your heart, someone who wanted to be there for you. Her eyes filled with tears. So yes, he said softly, you can stay with me. Not just for now, for as long as you want. I'll take care of you. I'll teach you. I'll protect you. And I'll love you, just like she asked. Mia fell into his arms, crying quietly, not from pain this time, but from relief, from the feeling of belonging, from the feeling of being chosen. And Daniel held her the way a father holds a child, firmly, protectively, with a gentleness he never knew he had. Weeks later, the mansion felt different now, lighter, warmer, more alive. Children's drawings covered the kitchen walls. A tiny pair of shoes rested near the door. Mia's laugh echoed through the halls like sunlight. Daniel found himself sitting at the table one evening, helping her with homework. She leaned over a notebook, pencil in hand, the tip of her tongue sticking out slightly. A habit her mother also had. When she finally got the answer right, she beamed. I knew you could, Daniel said. Mama used to say that too, Mia whispered. Daniel's chest tightened. not with pain, but with something gentle and grateful. He reached out and brushed her hair behind her ear. She would be proud of you, more than you know. Mia looked up slowly. Do you think she sees us? Daniel smiled softly. I don't think she ever really left us. They sat together in quiet peace. A billionaire and a little girl who had changed his world, a family born of sorrow, shaped by courage and held together by love. Sometimes the richest people are the ones with empty hearts, until life hands them someone whose love teaches them what wealth truly means. And sometimes the smallest request, a plea for time, a whisper for help, is enough to awaken the humanity we forgot we had. Because family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the people we choose to protect, and the ones who choose us back.